What's up everyone, it's Joey Blush Response, and today I'm jamming with the Soma Labs Lyra 8 and the Modor DR-2 digital drum machine. Let's get right into it. Alright, so we're here with the Modor and the Lyra, and the reason I have these two together is because I think they're an interesting pair. Also, they're both white, it looks good. The Modor is very digital, very clean, very surgical, and I think the Lyra provides a good complement to it in processing and accompaniment. So let's get them going. We have an empty pattern here with just initialized Modor sounds, and I'll talk a bit about how it works, and then I'll bring the Lyra in later. So basically you have 6 drum voices. You know, your standard snare, hat, tom, whatever, and there's a couple more weirder voices, and any type of voice can be assigned to anything. So this is one of the kick models. And let's just get a cool kick. And the cool thing is you can shape the envelope curve for the pitch envelope as well as the amp envelope, so you can get like exponential curves and longer curves, and then you have here parameters. These X, Y, Z, and T controls are unique for every type of voice. In this case you can bring us a noise, filter it, the mix of it, and there's some drive. See, we can go through the models. You have square BD, it's a distorted one, basic snare, marching snare, analog snare, hi-hat, ride, crash cymbal, claps, tom, tenor drum, rim shot, rattle, cowbell, and back to drive BD, which is what we were on. Actually, excuse me, we were on a different BD, but I like the drive BD. Now, one thing that I'm not so into about this machine is you'll notice as I'm turning the filter knob here, it only updates on each trigger. So that's a little weird, but it doesn't bother me so much. When you have a full pattern going is when it's not super noticeable, but isolated, it was a bit of a trip for a second. I think the sequencer in this is quite interesting. The thing you have to remember here is this is not an Electron, it's not trying to be an Electron, and that definitely threw me for a loop because you guys know I'm a huge fan of the rhythm, so immediately I was pretty judgy on it, but as I got to know the machine more, I got to appreciate it more. One of the cool features I want to highlight is the compressor. So you see I'm holding this definable button and using the fader here and lowering the compressor threshold, and if I turn this knob with definable, I do the compressor attack, and this is how you can get those really squashed out compressed drums, which I think are necessary. Let's add in some more. Now I want to use the basic snare. Also, going through these models, sometimes you can skip over the one you want, which can be a bit frustrating, but you know, nothing's perfect. And since we compress the kick so much, we need to do it here too, so the basic snare is basically FM synthesis. You have different types of sequencing triggers. Every kind of automation you'd want to do is a trigger. So you have reverse triggers, brake triggers, flam triggers, and you have this 16x32 thing, which is basically putting on 30-second notes. So like you see, I have the snare hitting here, I hold the 16x32, now it's got a roll. So that's cool. And you can put a flam trigger down. And if you do the flam, you hold the flam button, you do definable, you can change the timing on the flam. Let me remove the 30-second triggers here. Yeah, and you can hear the flam timing. So you can get little weirdness here and there, and then you can cut it too. So with the brake trigger, you can stutter it. So, you know, you got to figure out how to make that work the way you want it. Oh, I like that. The other thing you can do is it has random pattern generation, so you just click random and now have a random pattern on track C. Which is a basic hi-hat right now. If I don't like that, that's good for getting stuff on the fly. More stuff should have random pattern generators, but there's also, let's clear that out. Okay, so I just lost my pattern. Don't fucking ask me how. But I did, so we're gonna do it again. Thankfully, I still have the kit. I like how you can use the brake trigger to gate things. Now the thing I wanted to demonstrate is the Euclidean pattern generation. So we'll do that with the hat. Basically you hold shift and reverse and you'll see you have Euclidean rhythm parameters. You can choose how many hits and the interval, I believe, and you just press yes and you have it. And then if you don't like that, you know, you just tweak it a bit again, press yes. Yeah, it's how many steps and how many hits. So it's good for getting that going. So okay, we have Euclidean, we have random. Let's bring in another voice. You're probably wondering where are the parameter locks and stuff. So this doesn't do that, it does things a bit differently. The first thing you have is you have random assignable modulation. It can do one parameter. So I can hold random and turn a knob, and now it's affecting that. Each hit will be random. That's one way to do things. So besides the random, you can also do what's called the B modulation. You'll see here you have A and B, and basically B lets you change one parameter and put on separate hits on the sequencer representing that parameter. So to give you an example, we'll start with it. With this drum, it's like this, it's a little bit randomized. And then so it's low here, we'll hold B, turn pitch, and now if I put a B trigger down, so that's basically it for the modulation. The other thing you could do is you could do sequence variation. Of course, you can have up to 64 steps. If you read the manual, they'll say it's 128 steps because they have the 30-second note thing. But you can switch over to the 17/32 and have a completely different pattern. So you could have basically 4 patterns within a pattern. So here's one, and then boom. back to the original pattern. And the cool thing is it switches immediately, so you can get a lot of variation. And then you can mute with the shift button. Now, I like the core sound of this machine. It's a different vibe from other stuff I'm used to using, like from Electron, etc. But, you know, I like hard stuff, and I do feel that it needs to have some distortion going on. Now, you can do that by, of course, distorting the mixer. In my case, I'm using the Boss BX16, or you can bring in something like the Lyra distortion pedal. It's actually set up so you can use the individual outs with a TRS jack to put effect sends in, which I haven't tried yet, but sounds like it could be interesting. But let's bring in the Lyra. Now, of course, get some nice distortion on that. And, you know, you can bring in the delay and stuff. Let's try the other variation. Make another pattern. I think the Lyra is really underrated as an effects processor. Of course, it's great as a synth, and you know, you make cool, amazing drone stuff with it, and other things if you have the sequencers and stuff. This one's actually not mine. I'm borrowing it from VSK. Check him out. He makes top-notch techno with amazing sound design. Really an inspiration for me. Great guy. So we'll just do a random here. Play with the delay time. I love the sound of the Lyra delay. I also have the effects module on my Eurorack for this reason, because it's so good. You can get really trashy. Bring in the distortion. Of course, you're going to need some compression after this too. Go back to our first variation. Yeah. Bring in some compression on this rim shot. Start tweaking it out. The rattle is really, really weird. I don't even know what's going on here, but it's very strange. Distortion on kick. using the beat triggers. Some accent. Yeah, switching or variation. We'll make a beat variation on the kick. Basically it for the Modor. You know, it doesn't do everything, but I like the core sound. You can also use velocity as a modulator. Smashing, smashing, smashing. Okay. Again, that Lyra delay is just perfect. These machines work well together, not just because of the color. The resonance on that kick. Yeah. for noise too. Oh yeah, that's stepping though. Stepping. Yeah. It's kind of cool in a way, like you could do that rhythmically. Might be interesting. Modor DR-2 versus Lyra 8. So that was pretty fun. I think the Modor and the Lyra make a great combo, and I appreciate the saturation and nastiness that the Lyra can bring to such a clean machine like the Modor. Obviously the Modor is very digital, but I think it has some strengths in the compression, the sequencing features, and the overall core sound is something I'd really like. I wish it went a bit further. I wish there was more modulation. I wish the parameters didn't step when you turn the knob. Those things are big misses for me personally. I would like to be able to do something similar to parameter locking or automation to really bring out the power of the engine, because I think the drum voices themselves can get quite interesting, but it's not possible right now with the limited modulation it gives you. So if I know this is on OS 4 now, there needs to be some updating. Lose the stepping, bring in some more modulation, and just more stuff. I think it's a great start though. Obviously it's their first drum machine, and I think they got the basics right, so I appreciate that. As always, samples from this jam and other jams are gonna be on my Patreon. Don't forget to smash like here. Peace out.